Welcome to the Think Small podcast, hypergrowth for small businesses. So, what's slowing you down?
So, hello, everybody. This is Gene Bohensky with the Think Small podcast. This is a podcast where we talk with distinguished business owners that tell us about their businesses, how they got started, what they've learned, and really what they want you to know about them. And today we've got Anthony Buonaspina. He is the CEO and founder of LiTech Advisors. Very interesting company. They have a very interesting technical background, but they work on helping get great business outcomes for their clients. Anthony, great to see you. Great to have you here. Just to get started for our audience, tell us a little bit about yourself and your history and how you got into this business.
Oh boy. Okay, Gene, thank you for having me, first of all. That's a loaded question. Yes. First of all, yeah, I know I don't look that old, but I'm in business for over 35 years. And before that, I was doing a lot of top secret government work. And actually 40 plus years ago, I was working on AI, believe it or not. But anyway, for the past 30 years, all right, 35 years, I've worked with organizations from educational, healthcare, manufacturing, professional services, nonprofit sectors, and so on. And, today the focus is pretty much on helping executive teams leverage AI, workflow automation, operational intelligence, technology, strategy, and generally to improve business outcomes. All right. So technology itself isn't the goal. Getting more tech isn't. It's really what you're doing with it and the outcomes you're expected to achieve. And that's what we focus on as a company. And for the past 2 years, we've pivoted heavily into AI, mainly for ourselves to automate a lot of the processes and roles we actually have within our company. And we've been very successful. Now we're out, reaching out to our client base first and also any prospects at this point that need to automate things and understand AI. And, we can definitely help them do the right things and not make mistakes.
I know when we spoke before, you mentioned how you were always first to pivot. What was the business you did before you pivoted towards AI and helping business owners get good outcomes with AI?
Well, we were many, many years ago, we were a value-added reseller, and it quickly realized that was a dwindling thing that I started doing, basically becoming what they call a managed service provider, which is an outsourced IT firm, which we were doing, annual agreements billed monthly. And we did that before the MSP even became an acronym. So we pivoted back then to be more service oriented and business outcomes back then. And then since then, like couple years back, is that we've pivoted again into AI. Again, we're a very proactive company. Even as an MSP, again, a managed service provider, we realized right away, right, that most of the MSPs out there were doing break fix models. That's where, you only call us when there's something breaks. We started being very proactive in finding out and analyzing where the problems were, all right, what kept coming back to haunt the client and fix it ahead of time, meaning that we were able to reduce ticket counts, like the number of tickets coming into us by 50% in the first year. We've realized by just being very proactive and looking into where the repeat problems are. And, the funny part of this too is that clients sometimes don't realize that, one problem that they have, it could be a simple problem on their end, typically causes anywhere on national average between 2 and 3 hours of downtime on their end. On our end, we might be able to fix it in 5 minutes, but the downtime on their end is where the costs come in. And the 50% ticket reduction is a big saving on the client side.
Sure. I mean, a lot of these things, people don't know what to do and live with problems a long time before they actually make the call, right?
Mm-hmm. So again, being very proactive was it.
So there's a lot of companies in the MSP business. I've met a lot of them, coached some of them even. Why is it that you went away from that? Did you see that as not being lucrative anymore, or is that something that you think is changing over time?
Here's the thing with that. We still have an MSP division, but again, that's just tools. Okay.
Right.
When you hear a managed service provider, they're putting tools in place. That's it, to protect your computers. But as far as the additional stuff, as far as the advisement, that's hence LiTech Advisors, we roll that on top of that. Because a fool with a tool is still a fool. So you need to be able to roll some kind of advisory service on top. And that's why we have VCIO and also alignment manager that works with our clientele, so that we make sure that that technology is evolving to where their business outcomes, what they want, where they want to grow the business. Sometimes they want to exit, sometimes they want to expand. We need to know that so we can make sure the technology is in alignment with their plans are. And we do very, short and long-term planning with them.
Right.
What we find is, by doing this too, is that we can make a technology strategy that is best for the business. Again, outcome driven, and we are very proactive in our nature. And what made us different a couple of years ago, we pivoted to AI. Actually, we pivoted even longer before that. We started looking into it, and again, internalizing to see how we can use it and basically optimize our own business. And we were very successful with that. Now, what's different about that is that we layered that on top of our technical advising. We have an AI division now at business strategy and workflow automation. And that the difference between us and other companies like other MSPs, even other companies out there, 50% of those MSPs are going to be either ride that AI wave or get crushed by it. If they're not ready, they're not going to be able to make the change in time. Same with the businesses we serve. I mean, 85% of the businesses that we're finding are just dabbling in AI right now. And what the danger of that is that if you don't do it right, if you start using it without any kind of governance involved, you could do it really wrong and end up hurting your business in the long term. So that's where we come in, and we'll make sure that things are in place properly before, so that your employees can safely use AI.
I remember that's kind of what you led with like AI governance,
Hmm.
so that you can help people learn about those risks. Explain that a little bit
Yeah,
about
well,
how that affects companies.
I was dealing with a company the other day that, AI is already in their business. They don't even realize it. Employees are already using AI, whether it be, Claude, ChatGPT, any of the AI engines that are out there, they're already starting to use it for creating emails and so on. And, sometimes leadership often has no idea of that. And we refer to that as shadow AI, meaning, the CEO, the ownership and everything really doesn't have a clue what's going on within the company. And that's where the danger comes up, because you may be having confidential information go out there, customer data, financial information, contracts, intellectual property. And the question isn't whether employees are using AI, it's whether the leadership knows how it's being used, hence the AI governance. We be able to go in there and make sure things are in place and protect overall the internal network, the internal AI usage within the organization, so that it can properly be used. It's very important, because think about this. I went to a school not too long ago. I won't mention any names, but I found teachers putting kids' IEPs into a free version of an AI bot. And I'm like, that's going out to a deep learning engine. You are basically giving that information out to the public. It can manifest itself elsewhere in an AI engine. And I forecast someday, very soon, it could be 6 months to 24 months from now, you're going to have attorney firms putting in the right prompts into an AI engine and say, tell me about this school and what kind of information they might have put out that might be private, that we might have a class action suit for. And all of a sudden 50 IEPs come up from kids, and suddenly they reach out to the parents of those kids. I see that happening. That's why the shadow AI is very important, to address it immediately, and companies need to be aware of what's going on within that company.
Interesting. And I guess that's really something that I think very few companies or very few people are reaching out to companies to with that kind of service.
Mm.
So I bet you that gets you in front of a lot of people when you.
It's similar to what happened with the social media when it first came out, like Facebook. If I had some clients that just weren't into it, didn't care about it, and I said, no, you have to get ahead of it, otherwise it's going to take a life of its own. And it's exactly what happened. If some people start checking into locations and posting about it and stuff like that, that location, now that company has no control over what was just created, because they didn't start the page. So they had to go back, and now we helped them, and it took a while to actually try to regain control of those pages. And sometimes we weren't able to. We had to kind of bury the page and start a new one. Similar, because AI is the same thing. These employees are putting stuff out there that you don't know anything about, and you really need to get in front of it now before it gets too late.
That's really kind of defines your company, is getting out there in front of it before
Mm.
anybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. Even with the like automations and so on, like, if you don't start doing the stuff now, your competition will. So, about workflows and your what your business is doing as a overall, like, for example, one of the things is that you may look at your entire business from beginning to end and see it. Sometimes the owner doesn't even see it themselves. We have to go in there and see the entire organizational chart. We'll take a look at the from receiving to shipment, to maybe fabrication. It might be a manufacturer and so on. We'll look at the whole thing and see where the bottlenecks are, what the communication issues are, and so on. And then I'd go in and say, okay, let's add some business intelligence here and roll some AI on top of it. All right, so that we can basically pull a lever to increase the automation workflows, so that now your overall profitability, instead of being 12%, can jump up to 20%. And also your EBITDA now is a higher multiple from, it might be 4, it can go up to 8 or higher, because now you've made your entire processes more automated and you're keeping ahead of your competition now. And if you don't do it, your competition does, you're going to fall behind and, like I said, get crushed by that wave. So
Right.
workflow automation is very important.
So at this point, I want to just give you the opportunity to, reach out to the audience. Like we said, we got 15,000 plus business owners. What do you think they should know about you and your company?
Well, number one, we tend to look ahead. We have business, conversations we have are not about, hey, what kind of computers do you have? What kind of service do you have? No, that's again, just a tool. We talk about business outcomes. We talk about where you want to go with the business. What are your goals? Sometimes I have a business I'm dealing with right now that's not even clear on what they want to do. So I told them to take a library moment, actually take a day off and think about where they want to go with their business. And then we can now, basically roll in the automations and so on they're going to need, and the business intelligence they're going to need to better help track their business and see where it is now and where they need to go. And we can help them with automations to pull the right levers. All right. You might have 20 levers there. You only need to pull 2 of them and concentrate on those 2 in order to make a difference in your business. So that's what we help them. We'll go from an outside, looking in. We can sometimes help them, with that strategy. So again, that's what we, if you're looking to automate your business, you're looking to maybe have somebody take a look at your overall workflows to see what could be automated, what shouldn't. Now, AI is not the answer to everything either, because sometimes AI, depending on the data you have, if it's messy data and so on, you may just need some business intelligence first. That just might be just some dashboards and so on to be able to put in front of you. Like in my day, I start with a business dashboard that shows me the health of my business, shows me where everything is. There's no AI behind it. It's just like, this is the data, this is what I need to know for today, and so on. Now, if I want to take it to the next step, I can go into one of my secure AI engines, which we have a platform, because you don't want to just throw the stuff into ChatGPT that will go out to a deep learning engine. We have a platform that basically allows me to put any kind of secure information in there. It's SOC 1, SOC 2, and HIPAA compliant. And I can put data in there, which I'm not concerned about, as far as I am concerned about, but don't want it going out to a deep learning engine. So that's where I could help businesses with, in that strategy with their their AI governance.
Interesting. So just to sum up, 2 things that I heard is that businesses should really get ahead of just about everything, especially when it comes to AI, and making sure that they're run more efficiently, and they're finding out in their own companies, number 2, how AI is being used. Because like you said, shadow AI means most companies are, their employees are already using AI, and they might be using it in a way that's not really good or safe, especially with confidential information, right?
Think about it from an attorney standpoint. You're an attorney firm and you have information that is, attorney-client privilege, and then you throw it into maybe a deposition into an AI engine. You've now put it into a public resource. You've now disclosed that information.
Right.
And that now becomes, in the public arena, something they can use in a court that says you did disclose this. And that's dangerous. So that's why it's very important to, put the reins in on that very quick. But as far as businesses, again, technology should improve, your profitability, your productivity, the customer experience, the employee experience, your overall decision making and risk reduction. Everything comes back to outcomes. All right. And the question I ask, like every business, in order to, what business problem are you trying to solve? Why does a process exist? And who owns the workflow? All right. Can this step be eliminated? Should AI automate it? Doesn't mean it has to, right? Because it could be sometimes just a dashboard will do it. And should people even be doing this work? I mean, sometimes you have processes in there that, this is AI is not going to fix. It's just like, is the process even needs to be there? And the other thing too, is that the information coming in that has to be delivered over to, let's say, a fabrication engineer, you got to make sure it's in his love language, okay? Because sometimes people are visualists, sometimes people don't like to read long, lengthy walls of text emails. So if it's in their right language, it might be a big 60-inch screen TV that shows them exactly what needs to be done. We got to make sure it works, the workflow is presented in the right way to the right people.
Well, Anthony, it's great to have you on the podcast. Any final thoughts for our audience?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Again, technology should have a job description. When you think about technology and stuff, it should have a job description, meaning every technology investment should have a clearly defined business purpose. It should solve a measurable problem. It should also improve a specific outcome. And if it doesn't have a job description, it's probably just another expense. All right. So the whole philosophy that the technology exists to serve the business, not the other way around. Okay. So that's where we come in.
Great. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. I'm just glad. Thanks, Gene, for having me on. This was very nice.
Yeah.
Enjoyable.
Welcome to the Think Small podcast, hypergrowth for small businesses. So, what's slowing you down?